Alright, welcome back, people. We're gonna do another part.
Stop being
Oh.
so defensive and listen to us, Robbie.
We're just worried about you, that's all.
No need to be worried. I got this.
I don't think you fully understand what you're carrying. The parchment packs a lot of evil.
And what? You don't think I can handle it? I'll have you know that you aren't the only one who has a corner on controlling darkness. Just ask Sparky.
We're just concerned.
Concerned? You're starting to sound an awful lot like Caretaker, Nico.
Since when did you become such a jerk?
Since he started carrying that damn page, that's
Why don't you worry about yourself, Blake?
whatever you say, Robbie. Why don't you go find Peter?
Well, maybe I will.
A lot of tension going on in this game.
Well, we tried.
The parchment of power is no joke. Then again,
Man, Blade is jacked.
let's just hope he's right and he can handle it.
Yeah, let's hope.
It's weird. Something about Jeremiah Kane's statue drew me. Guess it's that old spirit of vengeance connection, huh?
Like you, Cain carried more burdens than any one man should.
Yeah. So he knew how the big honor could also become a curse.
Alright, now it's boring again. We're gonna talk about
Absolutely.
LBJ, people.
It's awesome to be one of the Midnight Suns and
One of the worst presidents pretty much in the history of this country.
Parchment of Power.
I think directly what you are seeing today
As long as you carry the parchment with you, you are the most
is attributable specifically to LBJ. A lot of the politicianing, the politicization of everything,
it is an awesome
obviously the welfare state,
Yeah,
pretty much it's all
of course.
because of LBJ.
Unless I use it. And
Just
I doubt that's
a
ever
bad man. But how do you get there? How do you become the man that he is? Well, he was born in 1908 in Texas,
fighting broke out.
in
Told me you were the
on a
key,
farm.
the prophecy, all of it. And that if we took you out, the world might survive.
He actually didn't have a name for like the
I know
first
what you're gonna say.
like
Don't
month or two of his birth because his parents couldn't decide on a name, and they named him after the county's lawyer,
and find out
Lyndon, but spelt it differently.
get so worked up about it.
The forces of the parchment and the Darkhold are not to be trifled with, Robbie. You cannot expect to read the page the way
He grew up Baptist, like most of his family, and
This is beyond you.
his family were he grew up very, very, very poor, which makes you very, very desperate. But he was definitely a cowboy by every sense of the imagination.
you are gambling not just with your life, but the lives of all of those who love you.
Fine, forget it. I'm gonna read the page. Happy now?
I mean,
I am relieved, yes.
in Johnson's defense, he worked hard. He had to. I don't think his home had electricity until he was like
Sir hurries up.
pretty much in his 20s. So he pretty much grew up without it. He was always a talkative man, always a charmer.
After all this,
He always participated in everything, all sports, growing up. Working as much as he could, support his family. It does weigh on you. No, I'll give him some credit. It's not easy growing up poor and then trying to hold some sensibilities and some
thanks for checking in on Robbie, Hunter. Did he mention?
I don't even know what to do with all these gifts. I'm only getting them because I just want them. I want them. I want them all.
Nice to get some fresh.
Everyone's leveling up. Need some training. Actually, can I upgrade some abilities?
Next level.
For her, I can.
Nothing's gonna stop me now.
Just tell me. I already told you. That was just a bunch of hocus pocus mumbo jumbo. Authored by the hand of a corrupted elder god. Vile, unspeakable.
Despite working hard, despite having a lot of confidence, he was always overconfident, which I think led him to feeling not very valued in a lot of different things, and he was passed up for. He had an ego. That's just the only way I could put about it. And he was very Napoleon complexy in a lot of ways. He felt inferior and always wanted to strive for the best, even in just any means possible. You know, they wanted him to go to school, his parents, and try to do whatever he could to get out of poverty for the most part. So he enrolls in basically Southwest Texas. It's a teacher college, so he ends up training to become a teacher. Works at a newspaper, which in a lot of ways actually probably helped him. He ends up becoming a very persuasive individual, and a pretty good political organizer as a result of a lot of his time and training there. A lot of books say. I just think he was just a very manipulative person, and I think it starts around this particular point in time where it becomes very, very, very apparent. Ends up teaching a lot of students in Texas, specifically in San Antonio, so that he could continue his education. And then ends up becoming a teacher at a high school in Houston.
And like any other fabulous bit of technology, it's only a matter of time before I figure out how to do what I want to do with it. Every problem has a solution, my resurrected friend.
Now, at this particular point in time, he's a very persuasive person, gets his hands in local politics very early on. Keep in mind, he's like 20, 22, 23, or I'm sorry, his mid-20s at this point when politics really starts entering his foray. And in particular, he had known Mr. Richard Kleberg, I believe his name was, who was a House representative and ends up becoming his secretary during this particular point in time. Basically, because his father also helped him. He had a pretty good. His father had a pretty good relationship with a bunch of the political peoples there, even though he was financially just a bankrupt individual. I think more so just not very smart with his money.
Ooh, new coil. Let's get to work.
And this helped Johnson because Johnson loved power, loved politics, and Kleberg was not a very good politician, which is why he would end up losing his seat pretty quickly.
I'm pretty sure Charlie left the steaming coil in the hallway. How's it going, boss?
But Johnson ends up actually, as a secretary, taking on a lot of the duties that he should have been that the actual congressman should have been taking. It's also there while working as the congressman's secretary. He meets his wife, Claudia. They called her Lady Bird. And Intel Cache. Sweet. I think they met in DC,
Now we know what they're.
where he
Pick a bad guy.
I think he might have been studying somewhere. And
Thanks, Hunter.
was it Georgetown? I don't know. They met at like a law center somewhere. I gotta go freaking talk to Stephen Strange. There he is.
Careful, Hunter. Punches are flying fast around here.
I can't allow you to cool down.
Carol, suggested I work out my frustration.
But the two actually really did not like each other. I don't think their marriage was very strong to begin with, but ultimately over some time, he's like, I'm gonna woo you, lady. After many, many dates, he asked her to marry him. They have 2 daughters together. And little tidbit, I think his children's names also have the same initials as Lyndon Baines Johnson. I know one of them is Lucy. Is it Lucy Baines? And then Linda. But all their initials are LBJ, which I thought was just really funny. And their marriage just wasn't strong. I mean, just going to point that out. He had numerous affairs well before his presidency, like immediately after. And just wasn't a good situation, I'll just put it that way. But they were, a couple and had to keep up appearances, so, I don't think she was particularly happy with the arrangement, but she gets to be a first lady eventually. And one thing that is undoubtedly true about LBJ was he had severe ambition. He was going to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day if he could, if it meant that he was going to eventually become the President of the United States of America. And ultimately, all his ambition, all his beliefs, researching, looking, making political deals, etc., around this very, very tricky time between 1935 to 1938 is very, very, just huge for him to eventually become not only a congressman, but an eventual president.
We're finally getting some decent tech down here. Tony is working.
So I need one more higher research level. So damn it, that means I'm probably going to have to do 2 more small missions, side missions, in order to actually get there. God, this game. I swear. No. Okay. Even then, I still need Wolverine. You know what? I want to see what Wanda's all about. Probably have my character, and I'll bring Cap into the fold. We'll see how this goes.
We've stumbled on a Hydra unit unloading some of their stolen bounty. Unfortunately, their crates are rigged to self-destruct. The required key card isn't swiped first, and Hydra's agents are carrying the key.
Okay.
You'll have to move quickly if we're going to recover any of their equipment.
All right, let's go.
Let's see what you're all about, Wanda.
All right, hero. Let's do this.
I think I need to improve her cards first before I actually go about using her. This is a terrible start. Anyways, LBJ ends up getting an opportunity.
Is that the same one as last time?
One of the congressmen in Texas ends up passing away, so it opens up an opportunity for him to run for Congress. Ultimately ends up winning after... Ultimately ends up winning after, let's just say, some improprieties happen. And what I mean by improprieties, I mean he's pretty much just found like stuffing boxes of ballots, basically. There's just no other nice way to put it. He's been a known cheater for pretty much a lot of his life. This leads to a very contentious election, but ultimately it ends up just being passed with a wink wink and a nudge nudge. And a level up.
Progress is good progress.
Ah, this game. I swear. Why do I get 5 moves all of a sudden? Is this a Wanda thing? Bet it's a Wanda thing. And FDR and Roosevelt have a very good relationship, I'll just put it that way. Of course. Of course.
Called in some friends.
I don't want to do this account anymore. This game is starting. I just want to complete this game. It's very frustrating. Ugh. You know, there's a point when a game becomes too much sometimes.
They haven't lost interest.
Do not seem to be
It's literally not even letting me use my guy's,
Armed one of the crates. It's going to explode if you don't get that key.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, you know what? We're not doing this. Yeah, I know, people. I'm not doing that. I'm not dealing with that. I don't care. I'm frustrated, and this game's going on way too long, and it's... Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Just let me go to bed. End this shenanigans, end this nonsense. Just, come on. Let me do all these cutscenes again.
Stop being so
It's nothing personal, Robbie. I just don't care. The story's way too long and it's very tedious.
like
After all this,
Again, this isn't a bad game, and I think a lot of people would actually enjoy this game.
Just
But it's just people. This is just too much. It's just getting tedious at this point.
I guess you're less on it.
I'm serious about getting the resource.
Ain't gonna go easy.
Getting way off topic though. Basically, he ends up winning his special election in 1937 near the tail end of Roosevelt's second term. Pretty much just runs on every single New Deal, votes along party lines for the most part for his 2 or 3 years as a congressman. And then a special election happens for the Senate, actually, in an off-year election where the incumbent ends up dying again. And then, you know what I'm saying? We might actually, we're gonna do this, you know? So he ends up running for the senator's office, and again, same exact shenanigans that end up happening. They knew how many votes they needed to actually get him the seat, which allows him to become the new senator of Texas. And this one in particular is undeniable. It is in every single book. It is in every single. It's on his freaking Wikipedia page, for Pete's sake. He basically steals the election in 1941 for the Senate of Texas. He doesn't win this election. He wins the next election, but he's caught stealing, specifically, which is crazy because he actually ends up trying to steal the election and then still loses, which just bewilders me. Because I forgot he goes into the military afterwards. Specifically, the Navy Reserves, joins the Navy. Doesn't see or really do any fighting for the most part. Mainly just a cheerleader. Can't do that. I gotta fight. But maybe if I don't do Ghost Rider is not available. Protect Hydra device. Let's just do this. Need to start upgrading people. Sorry, I just don't want to deal with that. I just want to do it easy. I want to complete this game. This is where I'm at.
It's an odd change of pace, but you're going to have to protect that Hydra equipment rather than destroy it. Don't waste any time. Take them out before they can do any serious damage.
Oh, is that all?
What am I doing? Now, 19... After the war, goes back, lives a regular life for a little bit, ends up successfully this time running for... Ends up successfully running for Congress this time. Sure, and then you will be stunned. This time winning in 1947.
Being a fascist
Or
wasn't
1948.
you had to get into demon worship too?
And he just becomes an absolute just an absolute whatchamacallit, powerhouse in the Senate. Again, after stealing the election again. He's just a known election stealer. That's just who LBJ is ultimately.
I'm shaking in my boots. Aw, look at all the big tough bad guys.
Okay. Do. Oh, good lord.
So when do the
My game gonna break? God. And while in the Senate, he's basically just making every single backroom deal. Every backroom deal you can imagine, every backroom deal you can think of. Probably overkill.
Ever been faced by a god? Today might be your lucky day.
I mean, this guy was a political manipulator, if there was one. My goodness. He's a little like Joe Biden. You know, he's just got, but probably a little smarter. He's just got his hands in everything. It's like, how's this person on this committee? How's this person on that committee? Yada, yada, yada. Like, just makes you think. You know, but he just has his hands in everything. And, you know, this leads to him eventually becoming the Senate Democratic majority or minority leader. I don't remember who actually had the Senate at that point.
Hey, one of ours needs help.
But regardless, he's the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate at that point. He's just fighting everything that he could and fighting against civil rights, although some books and whatnot will lead you to believe that he's actually fighting for civil rights.
All systems nominal.
You know, I think that my biggest problem with this game is that it is so heavily reliant on the social aspects of the game instead of the actual overall gameplay aspects of it. You know, all the extra stuff that you get with it than the actual overall game, if that makes any sense. Because otherwise this game would be done in like 10 hours.
I think we've got company.
2 more turns. I just have to defeat
Me running.
a couple more waves.
Chaos ensues.
So I actually have to use it. Okay.
You're in trouble now.
Hopefully it don't kill me this turn. So around this point, while he's the Senate leader, a lot of stories about him potentially being a KKK member.
Ready to smack around a few red shirts?
That's an interesting technique.
Suffers a heart attack because he was a pack-a-day smoker, or 2-pack-a-day smoker, and almost has a heart attack at like 45 years old or something like that.
Looks like we've acquired
And despite the ill health, he still runs for presidency, although he fails in his initial presidential bid in 1960. He enters very, very late, by the way, which is a big reason why he doesn't get a lot of help. A lot of people did not want Kennedy to be the nominee, and ultimately it was a bit of a compromise where like they can get their guy in, their establishment kind of dude in office. Of course, I'm hanging out with. Beat you in the game, bro. But basically, it's a compromise where he ends up becoming the vice president. Excuse me. And he and Kennedy did not get along when he was the vice president for the roughly 2 years. In particular, Kennedy did rely on his brother Robert for a lot of advice, who would be an eventual Democratic presidential nominee. And they did not get along in any way, shape, and form. Kennedy just basically gave him... Sure. Okay. Why not? Who else do I need to talk to? Stop talking, Agatha, so I can talk to you. He just gives him diplomatic missions, sends him to the Berlin Wall, etc., etc. But LBJ was still a part of the Senate. And let's just say there's shenanigans that helps him get elected to become the president of the United States. Long story short, I believe LBJ had a huge hand and influence, if not directly, indirectly, in Kennedy getting assassinated and then his eventual succession to the presidency of the United States of America. When, not to mention, too, the fact that when he was running for, Kennedy had made note that when he would run for his re-election bid, that he was going to drop LBJ as his vice president. That didn't help LBJ in at least the historical matters in terms of him getting of Kennedy getting assassinated, because it just seems like a lot of reasons to get him killed. Anyways, ironically, Kennedy gets assassinated. I think LBJ is actually in the hospital because they suspect he had another heart attack. Eventually, they end up they clear him, and he boards Air Force One with Jackie Kennedy. Kennedy there, all bloodied, by the way, and gets sworn in as the president of the United States of America while smiling. Just not a good man. Just, not a big fan of him. And it doesn't help, too, that some books attribute it to him just needing to make a big splash as a figure and as a president, but ultimately a lot of the things that he does subsequently are antithetical to what probably Kennedy would have wanted or liked. The only thing that he ended up keeping for the most part was Kennedy's cabinet, including Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General. But Kennedy ends up leaving because he's just like, no, you probably killed my brother, and I'm not about that life, bro. So he ends up leaving, and just has a very testy relationship with the press, whatnot. A lot of people see him as a bully. Does not go well in a lot of ways. Now, I think the American people, to a certain degree, thought that he wasn't going to be a pushover, so I think that aided him in his re-election bid. And I think, they saw him as someone who could get things done, get things passed. The only things he really continued, because when I mean he stopped doing a lot of things that were antithetical to Kennedy, it's like, we're going to get rid of Kennedy's name on this, and that. We're going to stop doing a bunch of the things that were happening during Kennedy's presidency. The only thing that they really continued was the economic policies, lowering taxes, and then, continuous economic growth domestically. But that does not work out very well, especially in Asia, where the Vietnam War escalation continues because Kennedy's there to try and resolve things, and Johnson's like, we're not doing that. And then things just get worse with the French and the Vietnamese, and then it's like, okay, well, now we have to do something about that. Okay, I don't have enough.
That can't be. I had that dream too. Maybe it was something we ate.
Don't you mean someone? I don't know. This stinks of a hex or a curse or something.
If we all had the same nightmare, does that mean we all share the same subconscious
God, I
neuroses?
hope not.
The probability of every single one of us walking the same dream state is 1 billion trillion to 1.
Yeah, it means we might want to have a little chat with our friendly neighborhood hunter.
Oh, I knew I should have let Mr. Murdoch copyright that for me.
I still can't get that image out of my mind.
Same here. And that's saying a lot these days.
I'm sure there's a logical explanation for this all.
There is the parchment.
I knew that page would find a way of messing with our heads.
Maybe it was warning us about you who.
Now, the Civil Rights Act passes in 1964, near the end of the term, which passes despite a bunch of opposition from various different groups of people, for various different reasons, mind you. Like Barry Goldwater himself, Mr. Conservative, who was, by every single admission, just every single source, just the complete opposite of a racist. He voted against it specifically, I think, on constitutional grounds. But a lot of people felt the same way, and a lot of people were obviously against it for the obvious radical shift in the American relationship, I guess you could say, with the people and let's just put it that way. But he basically like pushed that through only for the political credit. Even he admits this, and specifically gave it to Robert Kennedy to try and spearhead, who I believe was a senator at this point. This is what he does, though. Johnson just basically takes credit for things, even though he doesn't actually really believe it, yada, yada, yada. This is ultimately what he does, though. Now, it passes. His re-election bid's coming up, the election of 1964. And his proposal is his Great Society program, which ultimately ends up being pretty much creating a welfare state for the country. And the person against him was Barry Goldwater, the senator and congressman from Arizona, who they called Mr. Conservative. There's a reason why Arizona is very, very red for the last, 60 plus years, is because of Barry Goldwater and his lasting influence there. Some people say John McCain. John McCain's a very, very bad man. And someone who I think did a lot more damage than good. And this is where like TVs are a big thing, and they become very, very pronounced in American society, where attack ads are actually really, really provocative. And they made Barry Goldwater out to be some nuclear Holocaust individual, successfully, mind you, which actually greatly hurt his campaign and his bid. It doesn't help that he's like not denying a lot of it. It's not necessarily that he's not denying a lot of it. It's more so like, excuse me. It's quite literally just he wants all the cards out on the table and not unwilling to do certain things. Of course, he's not going to launch nuclear bombs. It's ridiculous, but a bunch of people bought it. A bunch of people thought that was actually something that was going to happen, and it scared a lot of people. Wolverine's my bro. But I think the biggest issue probably is just the fact that LBJ's like, we're going to use the federal government to help all these people. And Barry Goldwater's like, no, we have a real spending problem and we need to fix that, and we need to, reduce inflation that's starting to get a little out of control right now. And that's basically it. And basically 1964 is just a destruction of an election. LBJ wins unanimously by a lot of votes. Johnson won like 44 states, mind you. And Democrats had just everything they could ever want. They had a House majority, a Senate majority. Like when I mean like a majority, I'm talking about like 70 Senate seats versus 30 Senate seats kind of majority. It's everything that they could have ever wanted. I'll put it that way.
Sounds like everyone had a restless night. I hate to ask this, but are you all right?
Of course I am.
You sure? The dream.
So when he comes back into office, the first things he does is implement Voting Rights Act, implementing the Great Society programs, which he does unanimously, obviously. The Voting Rights Act thing was just basically so that it ensures that black people can vote. And if I'm to be honest, most black people end up voting Democrat, so it's just more opportunity for them to get more votes. He does nominate Thurgood Marshall to be a Supreme Court judge, which is very big in that point.
She knows the parchment is here.
And is desperate for
I mean, he does everything. He's like, we're going to put more funding in education, war on poverty, healthcare reform, Medicaid is a thing now because of him. Attempts to put forth numerous different gun control bills, which it's little things like that that slowly do not endear him to the greater population. I need an artifact. That's an artifact. Recover Hydra data. Oh, God. I'm gonna hate this, aren't I? I'm gonna get my heavies out here. Mind you, too, he's the president when so many riots go on, which only hurts him and creates a very unique situation where a lot of these riots are creating real foundational political instability. Can I hack a terminal?
I can handle it.
Yeah, target me, Wolverine.
That's right.
Just make sure we get some bad guys out. I mean, you think things are bad now. Things were very bad in the 60s. MLK's murdered. Soon after, Robert Kennedy, who's running for the presidency, was murdered. Everyone's getting murdered. Black Panthers cause a lot of disruption and destruction, which people just don't look at historically, but they did. I mean, pretty much like the National Guards all over the country doing everything they can to try and maintain some semblance of peace. God. I just want to recover an artifact. That's so bad, people.
Time to show 'em who's in charge. Target confirmed. They're not gonna like this. Let's settle.
Come at me, bro.
Haven't felt this good in years.
Okay, we're just gonna figure it out.
I'm not going down that easy.
Didn't work before. Not gonna work this time.
We've got incoming.
Not good. Not good, people.
We should have brought a med kit. I think you got it.
I just need, like, something, people. I know he has the healing factor.
Glad you're on our side.
I'm going out on a limb here.
How long have you been waiting to do that? You're really into me today.
Well, now I'm corrupted. Great. All the while, too, Vietnam's going on, by the way, people. And in fact, he knew he wasn't going to win, let's just be honest. Vietnam is its own issue that he's gaining so much negative press for that he knew he wasn't going to win re-election. He wasn't even going to try, to be honest. He was just going to be out, just dip. And then, in fact, he actually tries to end the war in Vietnam so that Hubert Humphrey can actually have a shot at winning the presidency. in 1968 fails dramatically.
Not changing their plans.
I got something on my face.
Okay, so now we just need to defeat the Den Mother. Now let's get rid of some of these guys. Give me a card back, people. Thank you.
That was something. Let's try this again.
Heal Wolverine because everyone's gonna be looking at Wolverine.
Behold the light gift.
Good stuff.
Piercing slash. I need better cards.
Just what I'm gonna rip it off.
This is not gonna end well. And people want to always point out that Nixon was a paranoid person. I mean, Johnson was an absolutely paranoid person. He was video recording, taping everyone, notably Martin Luther King, mind you. But he had lost all power, lost all control, especially once Kennedy was killed. It was just not happening for him. Leaves office, disgraced, although people quote unquote remember him better historically, yada yada.
Brace yourselves, people. Company's coming. Let's go, team.
If you let them destroy that server, all of our work here is meaningless.
This game, I swear. I'm just trying to finish it. I'm just trying to beat it. This game is making it increasingly difficult to do anything. And it's just so thoroughly frustrating. I'm just going to wait to hack the servers. I'm just going to deal with it, hoping nothing gets destroyed, and just take out all my enemies before I even hack anything.
Scared yet?
I'm glad you're on our side. Hail that.
LBJ, he retires though, goes home. really doesn't do too much because he dies soon after because of heart disease. Was largely for a lot of the Democrat people, obviously Democrat politicians and presidential candidates. He was for George McGovern, all those people. But dies because of heart disease in 1972. Leaves a lasting, increasingly negative legacy if you're going to be an honest individual. Okay, we need to think about this. I'm going to do this.
I'll make good use of this.
What to do, what to do.
Hope they're ready.
That is quite true, Cap.
Never too old to improve.
Okay, let's see what they got. Ugh. This is just brutal. Ugh.
You're not going to wear me down.
I'm gonna restart this again, aren't I? I have to do this one, though. Or do I not? Yeah, I really don't want to do this one. And we're just going to end it right here. LBJ is a terrible president, and that's all I really have to say. Look, like and subscribe. God bless. If you guys like this, enjoy it. Other than that, God bless. Peace.